here in the worship center. Okay? Have a great night. My friend Scott.
You did awesome.
Thanks.
You did great. You remembered everything you were supposed to remember. It was phenomenal. Dismissed the landing and everything. That was great. Great. Hey, good evening. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ in recovery for sex addiction. My name is Scott.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, glad you guys are here. There's a pattern I've been seeing in my life. People coming into my office, talking to sponsees, talking to individuals, and huge relational problems. And that's a big thing. It's a huge concern for me. And I know right now we teach through the 12 steps or biblical comparisons, and we just finished the teaching of that. So we have a month or two off, and this is one of the topics that I really felt led to. And so this is not just for those that are married or in a relationship. This is for all of our relationships, because especially if you're a sex addict like me, you realize that your addiction is an intimacy disorder, and we don't necessarily know how to do relationships well. And so today we're going to be going over what does that look like. And there is a book that was out that this is kind of based out of, and I don't know the name of the book, to be off the top of my head, sorry. The author is Dan Drake and Mr. and Mrs. Rabsmith. Yeah, fun time. So, just getting that out of the way, I want to give credit where credit is due. It wasn't like this came out of my brain and I'm a genius. No, this is stuff I have to learn and I'm still learning. And as I'm going through this, realizing I got a lot of work to do. And that's what's huge. And so we were talking about a pyramid and the foundation of creating those intimate relationships. So if you're here for the first time, I just want you to focus on the first point we're going to talk about today. You can focus on the rest too, but really the first point is the base of our recovery. And so the first main point is honesty. Honesty is the regular practice of transparency with self and others. You read the big book of AA, Rigorously Honest program, everything is based upon us being honest with ourselves and with other people. Step one is stepping out of denial. That means we've been lying to ourselves and we need to be honest with ourselves. And in a relationship, I'm gonna guess if you're an addict, you've probably lied to your spouse multiple times. And just something that we need to focus on. What does honesty look like? That is the foundation of a healthy relationship, is honesty. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 22 says this: lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who act faithfully are his delight. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord. That's rough. I was sitting down last night and I was like, just trying to get advice from my wife and thoughts, and I was like, hey, what's a good verse for this? And she just immediately goes, boom! And I was like, dude, you've been waiting for me to ask that forever. Got him. So honesty is huge. So how do we do this? How do we live an honest life? Well, first thing is we have to be aware. We have to be aware of ourselves. We have to have the ability to recognize our emotions, where we're at physically, and where we're at spiritually, and the well-being with all that. We have to have the know-how of what that looks like. So that may come after 90 days of actually being off that drug. It may take those 90 days being clean and sober. But that you are able to understand why you did good and why you did bad in relationships with yourself and with others. What were the good things and what were the bad things? Why did those relationships fail? Because you're a liar, right? Because you lied and they didn't want to put up with it anymore, and boop, done, right? That's it. It's assessment. As a football coach, I was a linebacker. When I was in high school, I didn't play past high school, so I get it. But I was a linebacker, and one of the things that I had to do is I had to read the play that was coming at me. And I had to read the running back. That's what we did. We read the running back, or we were reading the guard, depending upon the defensive call. And I had to be aware of what they were doing and act accordingly. And we have to be aware with what's going on. And I was running a play, and I was running to tackle somebody. Not only could I just be laser beam focused on the guy that had the ball, but I also had to be aware of the lineman that was coming to hit me. And I had to know how to get around that block, get through that block, do whatever I needed to do. Right? Same thing when we're driving. We drive down the road. We got to be aware if there's a car next to us or not, if we can change lanes. And if there is, we just honk and go. I'm just kidding. That was India. That was what we did in India. You just honk and move. You just go. Here I come. And there you are. It was awesome. But we have to be aware of ourselves, what's going on with us and what's going on with other people. We also have to be authentic. What does authentic mean? I love this. This is something that I value in people. It's the ability to know who you are and be that same person with everybody and any situation. This takes being real. This takes stepping out of that chameleon lifestyle that you once lived and actually be who you are. I always go back to this, but do you remember the old movie, I know it was 90s, Runaway Bride? Yeah, she didn't even know what kind of eggs she liked because every guy she dated, she just liked whatever eggs they liked. And so many of us, we don't even know what we like or dislike. And we got to be authentic. We got to know who we are and be that person in whatever circumstance we are. In our job, with our friends, with our family. And then we have to be assertive. We have to be assertive. The ability to recognize needs and desires and to communicate those in a healthy way. To share experiences and emotions for healthy problem solving. To be assertive. That does not mean to be rude. A lot of times people are like, you're rude. No, I'm just assertive. No, you're not going Karen mode on us. Or Kenny mode, or whatever mode they call it for guys. We're not being rude and we're not just stamping our foot down and, this is who I am. That's not what we're talking about. It's talking about knowing these things, being able to recognize the needs and desires, and be assertive and go, no, this is what needs to be done. And as we go through the steps, as we start to transform our life, as we do an inventory, as we start to look at character defects, as we start to forgive, as we start to make amends, we start to recognize these things and we get this profound wisdom that we never had before. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Being assertive means basically mean what you say and say what you mean. Some of the tasks that you can do, because this is a task-based type idea, to help with this, homework assignments that you can do, is learning what disclosure means. Every sex addict in here just freaked out. That is a word that I use in my counseling. That is a word that I use in my life is disclosure. Being able to disclose everything. Not partial. The spouses, the codependents, the people in a relationship with an addict, they fear the fact they're waiting for that other foot to fall. Great, the Band-Aid was ripped off once. When is it fully gonna get ripped off? That's why we need full disclosure. That's why we need that disclosure. We come up with what does a recovery plan look like? I don't know, I'm just gonna go to a meeting. Right? What does that really look like? Right? Maybe even coming up with recovery check-ins. I mean, the addict, I'm gonna guess, I'll speak for myself, I hate being asked, well, how are you doing in, that area? Right? But maybe coming up with what does a recovery check-in look like? Or giving your spouse the permission to ask those questions. And that's really tough, and I'll be honest, that's something that I still struggle with in my relationship with my wife, is how do we do that on a regular basis that's healthy for her and me? And so we work on that. Doing a trauma egg. 90% of sex addicts are trauma-based. I'm gonna guess that goes to pretty much across the board with addicts. So to do a trauma egg, not only for you individually, but you as a couple. The trauma that has been happening in your relationship, how do you start to evaluate that and look at that? So that's honesty. Now we have to look at the next one, which is safety. We build upon honesty with safety in our lives and in our relationship. Our spouses want to be safe. We encourage people, if you're not safe, you need to get to a safe place. Safety is a sense of relational security created by ongoing constructive behavior from both people. Psalm chapter 4, verse 8 says this, "In peace I will both lie down and sleep. For you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety." Does our spouse lay awake at night because they don't feel safe, because they're wondering what's going on? Do we lay awake at night because we don't have peace in our heart, peace within our soul? Because we know we might be found out. Someone might know. And so we have to get to this place where we can have safety. Our spouses can feel safe. We can feel safe. But every time you bring something up, guess what happens? There's an explosion, there's a fight in the marriage, and or in the relationship. And we have to feel safe in those moments. Well, the way that we do that is, first of all, we have to take responsibility. The ability to own fully your feelings, actions, and patterns in your recovery and in your life, to accept and to address the full implications of your actions on others and your relationship. To actually take responsibility for the things that you've done to other people and that they've done to you. Say, that kind of sounds like recovery. Kind of sounds like an inventory and a forgive and an amends process, doesn't it? This is a journey. This isn't something that's gonna happen overnight. We have to take ownership of the things that we did. And that doesn't mean, hey, something happened, you go, oh, I own that. I forget where it was, but there was a guy that something happened, he goes, oh, I own that. I go, that's great, you own it, but what are you gonna do about it? Like, what does that even mean? Oh, I own that. Like, okay. How are we gonna make amends? How are we gonna deal with that? So we take responsibility for those things, and then when we start to take responsibility for those things, we start to become reliable. Our spouses can't rely on us. They can't rely that we're gonna create a safe environment for them. It's the ability to behave constructively, consistently. That you are consistently being who you are. That it's not at any given day that what dad or what husband or what wife or what mom am I getting today? We've got a 4-year-old kid, and I love him dearly. He is awesome, best mullet ever. But I never know what kid I'm gonna get. Am I gonna get a happy kid that's good? Or am I gonna get a kid that when I say hi, he's gonna say, go away? Like, I don't know. And so I come in and I'm like, what kid do I got? Okay, I got that kid. I'm just gonna be quiet, I'm gonna back away, and I'm gonna let him be him, right? And sometimes that happens in our own relationships. But not only that we're we consistent, but that we respond from internal strength rather than external circumstances. That situations don't determine how we respond, how we act, how we behave, but it's from our internal strength that we find in Jesus Christ. Let me ask you this question. Can people depend upon you? I mean, when you say you're going to do something, are you going to do something? A big trigger for spouses is when we're constantly late, and that's one of the signatures or one of the warning signs of an addict is if they're late, right? And so when we show up 5 minutes late from work and we didn't let them know, What's that doing in their life? They're going, oh, are they back out relapsing? Are they doing something? Are they in a parking lot somewhere doing something they shouldn't do? And so we got to communicate. We have to have that reliability. If we say we're going to do something, that we do it. Basically, do what you say. Are you a man of your word? Are you a woman of your word? Great question for us to think about. Not only that are we responsible and reliable, but we also start to regulate. Not like regulators mount up, that's not what I'm talking about. Right? The ability to work through painful emotions and respond with constructive behaviors. That we are able to regulate our emotions. That we don't walk in and all of a sudden vomit everything that we have on our spouse or on our friend or whatever. Do you have that friend that every time you meet for coffee, it's like a vomit session? That you're just like, oh my gosh, how can I drink my coffee faster and get out of here? Or are you that person that's that vomit session? That you just feel like you're a burden on everybody that you talk to because you constantly are just sharing everything. That we're able to start to regulate those things, know what's appropriate, know when it's appropriate, know how to share those things. And we do that by doing recovery. We do that by talking with our sponsor. We do that through journaling. We do that through talking to our accountability partners. But we start to regulate those things. We actually let this thing called the fruits of the Spirit take control of our life, and that we are actually under control. That we have self-control, as Scripture would say. Some of the tasks that we can do is learn to find out what are the boundaries that we need to set up in our life so that we can be safe. What does that look like? Starts with sobriety and safety issues. If you're physically unsafe, you may need to set a boundary around that in your relationship. If you're with an active addict, what does that boundary look like for you? Addressing triggers can start to happen at this point. Looking at the relationship and going, what are the triggers that I do that may cause problems? What are the triggers that they do that may cause problems? We can start looking at those things, talking about those things. So that's honesty and safety, and now we get to the third tier, and that is this. Finally, what every guy in here that struggles with sex addiction or addiction, and they go, why can't you just trust me? I mean, I said I was sorry. Trust comes along down the road, and it's not right off the bat, unfortunately. But we have to go through living that life of being honest. We have to go through providing a safe relationship. And then trust starts to happen, and it's something that is worked on, not just given. Trust is a confident conviction that our partner says and does things that are for us and our relationship. That it's not out of selfish ambition, it's not out of selfish gain, it's not out of selfish behaviors, but it is about the relationship, it is about us, it is about other people than themselves. Why is he giving me a back rub? Right? What does that mean? Luke chapter 16, verse 10 says this, one who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. That we would become trustworthy, and trust can start to come back into that relationship. Well, it comes with being committed. Not like committed to the insane asylum, but committed, being all in. The ability to invest in yourself and relationships with time and resources without expectations or outcomes. If I go to meetings this many days, then will they get off my back? If I go help him do this, will he help me with this? That we need to be committed. We need to be all in. When couples come into my office, a lot of times I go, how in are you? Are you 100% in? Or are you like 0% in? I mean, are you like all in, like both feet? Or you got a foot out the door and you're ready to bolt? We need to be all into the relationship, because if you're not all into it, how can you be trusted? You can't, because you don't know why you're doing what you're doing. You got to be all in on it. Then you got to be courageous. The ability to pursue relational healing without definitive proof that the other person will fully reciprocate. Ooh. That we have to take a risky move and actually put ourselves out there that they would be able to take that, and we may not get anything in return. Do the things that you don't necessarily want to do. We have love languages. My wife has the worst love language out there. It's acts of service. I hate it. Why can't I just like hold you, cuddle you, right? Like, why can't that just happen? But it's acts of service. That means like when we get done eating and I get up and if I clean the dishes, that means a lot to her. But that's why I got 5 kids, man. No, it doesn't work like that, right? It doesn't. But the fact that I would speak her love language, that I would go and I would do those things, that I would be doing those things that I don't necessarily want to do. I didn't want to look at my car the other day. And I went out and I took off the door panel. Found out where bolts belong on a car. It's in door panels. There you go. Took the door panel off and tried to fix the window that slid all the way down and get it up and prop it up and wait, because it's probably not the safest place, because I know you guys. I know the people you used to hang out with that are in Modesto, and it may not be safe in Modesto with the window down. So, wow. I know, right, Larry? So I went out and I took a look at that. But not only do we be committed and we do take risky behaviors in our relationships, but we also are cooperative. That we cooperate, the ability to drive collaboration and teamwork in the relationship. To pursue perspectives and ideas other than your own in personal and relational pursuits. In other words, just like I was told as a kid, play well with others. Play well with your spouse. Look for the similarities, not the differences. Look to see how you guys can get along. Some of the tasks that you can do on this, the things is maybe an impact letter. How did their addiction impact you? And you can write that down. And that process. Emotional restitution letter. And this is really where forgiveness starts to begin. The forgiveness exercises, learning how to forgive, because we can finally start to trust them. If we're untrustworthy, that's really hard. But we start that forgiveness process. The fourth one is vulnerability. That we actually have to be vulnerable in our relationships. It's easy. Scott Miller always said, hey, once you get in recovery and you start doing the work, you become a crying baby. He cries all the time at commercials. He watches those Hallmark commercials, whatever, and cries and all that kind of stuff, right? But we start to become vulnerable. Vulnerability is the act of giving ourselves that openness that opens us up to the possibility of deeper connections and partnership. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. For my power is made perfect in weakness, therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. That we would be vulnerable enough in our relationships that we could accept our failures and our shortcomings. Part of that is being empathetic. Empathy is the ability to recognize the validity of emotional states in others and to be comfortable with that. And to recognize what those may look like in you. And I can say that, but really there's a video I want you to look at that's gonna maybe describe it a little bit better.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. Yeah. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
So that was, that was a video by Brene Brown. Very great video that really describes what empathy looks like. But not only do we have to be empathetic in our relationships, but we have to be empowering. The ability to give free choice to others and share leadership, influence, and decision-making that creates a balance of power rather than seeking your own protection. The ability to let the other person have a voice, the ability to actually listen to them and actually let them be a part of the relationship. Some of my defense mechanisms used to be that I'd get really angry and that would deflect. If I just get loud enough, they'll leave me alone. If I just yell, they'll leave me alone. If I just become a jerk, then they will walk away. Not only do we have to be empowering in our relationship and give that other person that voice, but we have to be expressive. We actually have to share what's going on. The ability to communicate accurately our experiences, the story, and the emotions, both in the past and present, in a way that deeply connects with others and encourages them. That we actually get past the surface stuff. Yeah, I deal with anger too. Awesome. How does that manifest? Well, I can start to feel it in my gut, and I start to feel it overwhelm me, and then when I get really, really mad, I start to get tunnel vision. Everything kind of starts to get black around me, and all I'm seeing is this person that I want to punch in the face. Some of you are shaking your head like, oh, I have that too. Awesome. Some of us are yellers, some of us are screamers, some of us are silent treatment people. We like to storm away and give everybody the silent treatment, but that is just as bad as the person that wants to punch the other person in the face. That we're able to express what's going on, that we take a pause, And we're able to share and talk actually about deep stuff. I used to be able to shoot the breeze with anybody, and then I got to recovery, and all of a sudden I got annoyed with small talk. I wanted to be able to get to real stuff. I really wanted to get to know people. I wanted to know what was really going on. Some of the things that you can do during this is you can start to look at the grief that you have in your relationship, start doing couples grief. Forgiveness continues during this process, and this is actually the process that sexual reintegration starts to happen. What? We haven't even talked about that yet. I know. That far along? Yeah, that far along. Because there cannot be vulnerability. There's nothing more vulnerable than the act of sex. You are 100% totally exposed, like none other in your life. And we want acceptance from our partner. And so in a marriage, that's when the sexual reintegration would start to happen. We start to look at maybe visions and goals. We start to share those things, and we would have mutual sharing of the trauma that has happened in our life and in our addictions. The last main point is intimacy. Finally, intimacy can happen, which is sustained and life-giving unity that leads to mutual flourishing. Scripture says this, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me." Psalm 139, verse 1. The passion and the desire that we need, the idea that it is my belief that everybody wants to be fully known and fully loved. I want to be fully known and I want to be fully loved. And that's what I got in recovery, when people knew my junk and yet they still loved me. No, do you know who I am? Like, you heard my fifth step and you still want to talk to me? Huh, that's interesting. Through this, we need to be passionate. What does passionate mean? The ability to give yourself wholeheartedly into your pursuits and priorities without fears or burnout or imbalance. Do what energizes you. Do the things that you have passion for, the things that give you life. If you're doing something and it is draining the life out of you, why are you doing it? Accept a job. I know we got to make money. I get that. But if you're doing recreational time and it drains the life out of you, why are you doing that? I was talking to a guy today about that. In my life, I start to have these blah moments, or depression starts to creep in. And all I want to do is sit on the couch and watch TV. I want to watch Longmire. I want to watch Psych. I want to watch Monk. I want to watch something like that that will just numb me out. I've seen 500 times and I can just totally zone. But does it suck the life out of me? Yes. But when I get together with my game group, when I get together with my sponsor, when I get together with my accountability partners, when I go to a recovery meeting, that gives me life. When I coach sports, that gives me life. Not only do we have to be passionate, but we have to be purposeful. The ability to understand and to use our experience, strength, and hope in a way that serves others on the journey of transformation. Step 12, right? We show up to group and we share our experience, strength, and hope in group. We have other couples or we have other people around us that are struggling, and we actually reach out and we help them. We climb down in that hole with them and we share that we're on that same journey. Come join me. We have direction in our life. We're not just doing things aimlessly, and we're not just being tossed to and fro by the wind. And the last one is this, that we are playful. The ability to let go of outcomes and expectations in your personal and relational spheres, and to engage in connecting through creativity and being whimsy without direct purpose. That we would actually start to flirt again in our marriages and our relationships. Some of us, we got to clear out the cobwebs and remember, what in the world does flirting mean? Like, is that flirting? Like, hey, how you doing, right? Like, Joey, how you doing, right? What does that mean? Some of the tasks that you got to do for this is the forgiveness ritual that it becomes, because I know that we will never forget the hurt and the trauma that's happened in our relationship. It's the continual process of forgiving that hurt and pain. We address maybe the impact that this has had on our children. You look for service opportunities and you help others. You support others. Guys, there is no reason as we start to come into recovery and we start to work our program, that it's solely only about us, that at some point this has to bleed over into the relationships around us, into our spouse's life, into our kids' life, into our jobs, into our friendships. And this starts to change how things happen, and we can have intimacy with other people. It's absolutely crazy. Let's stand and close with the serenity prayer. The focus question, though, is this. Now that you're in recovery, how do you live a rigorously honest life? Going back to that first point, right? So let's say the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. Amen. First, thank you. First timers right across the hallway. Second timers right up front. We'll see you guys at dessert. We've got cake and pie.